In any creative field these days, posting content seems to be essential, and I think that that is especially important in the art and design world. No better person to bring in than my friend Katrina. Katrina is a talented designer and content creator online who has thousands of followers and creates things like brand identity, font recommendations, day in the life stuff, and whatnot. They are a good person to offer some additional perspective on this and just an overall conversation on the pros and cons of creating content online as an artist or as a designer. Let's get into it. With creating content online, specifically as an artist or as a designer, all the time that you're spent doing that is kind of taken away from the actual participation of the craft and like actually getting better as, you know, a painter, illustrator, designer, whatever you may be. And I've even had people not necessarily know I even practice that profession anymore. Like they think I'm just a content person around design. Because, you know, I'll go through phases where my feeds are like primarily that. And then I'll go through other phases where it's primarily work. And I think it's an interesting kind of, you know, balance to figure out like what's actual art, what's design, what's content. And do you feel like there's even a clear distinction on the way people consume that stuff? Like they know the difference between what's content and what's like, maybe for lack of a better word, just art?
I mean, I think it kind of just depends on the field you're in. I think because we're graphic designers, it's like really easy for us to distinguish like, oh, that's graphic design, or like, oh, that's something else. And I can't really speak for the other people because, yeah, for me, it's like really easy for me to be like, yeah, there's a clear distinction there. But I'm sure there are people who are just like, oh, content is content. Like whatever I'm seeing on my feed is just content creators, like a bunch of them doing whatever. So I don't really think there is a clear distinction. And I think because social media is so like active and prevalent and like there are people just posting reels and things every single day, it's just easy for it all to kind of get jumbled up and lost in the mix.
We're at this like creator camp thing right now, right? And there's all these types of creators doing like film and this and that. And I'd say 9 out of the 10 people I showed my stuff to, like, and this isn't to them, or this is how the general audience sometimes can react to, is like, they're like, oh, your content's dope. Like, and I'm like, I didn't think I would show you content. I thought it was like art or whatever. But I guess that if it's online, it's kind of forced to become like content in a way. Like if I really was that much of just like a pure artist, I would just make it and like not put it out, right?
You just sell paintings and
or just have it like as to show my friends or whatever. But I think that getting over the fear of putting stuff out there is one of the most, you know, valuable things you can do, because you need like a feedback loop. You can't just create something and not know if it's good or bad. Like it's good to have like other people's opinions, whether you take them into consideration or not.
Oh, I mean, I guess that's an interesting take, because I feel like some artists are just like, I just make art to make art, and then that's kind of what fulfills me.
Right.
But I think because we are like quote unquote content creators, it's like we do depend on that feedback loop and like that engagement with other people.
Right.
But I can definitely see both sides of it, between like an artist just kind of doing their own thing and like a content creator who's kind of doing it as a job and like working with brands and doing other things like that.
Right. I also think it's interesting how, you know, we are graphic designers, but I feel like you would agree with me to an extent that we like maybe lean a little bit more towards the art side because we do like personal work and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, like the core, like if you just think of what is graphic design, like we're creating stuff for like capitalism, you know, essentially. So like we're already almost not allowed to be like, this is just for me, because it kind of can't be, you know, even if it's like, even if the client is the followers, you know, almost.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting because sometimes when I'm like creating a poster just for myself, it's never really for myself, because in the back of my head, I'm like, oh, I'm definitely going to like film myself doing this process, put it into a reel or whatever.
Yeah.
So nothing is ever solely for me anymore, or like it rarely is. Like sometimes I'll paint and I'm just really bad. Can I swear or no? No swearing?
Nah, you could swear.
Oh,
I don't care.
okay. Okay. Yeah, sometimes I'm just like really dog shit at painting.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
like, well, I don't really need to share this with the world. Like, this is just
Right.
something for me. But I think when it comes to graphic design, I'm a little bit more inclined to like share everything.
Do you feel more pressure almost than people who don't have other artistic like hobbies to be good at all of them? Like you think you should be good at painting because people know you're good at design?
Yeah, I think like sometimes you see me and you're like, oh, this is just like an artsy Asian girl, you know? It's just like a very big stereotype. And
Yeah.
I like don't really resonate with that because I don't think I can really like draw fine art super well.
Same, yeah.
I illustrate on Illustrator, but if you tell me to like just raw do something with pencil and paper, I would not be proud of it. And like yeah, just I don't really see myself as like that type of person. It's just
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm kind of good at design, but not like art or any of the other things.
Yeah, I agree. I'm awful at drawing. Like, and that is maybe obvious because a lot of my work isn't illustrative and stuff, but sometimes I'm embarrassed because I feel without anyone's like even knowledge of me, they know what I do, so I'm supposed to be good at this.
Yeah.
Even with that exercise we did,
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
damn, mine's gonna suck. Like Baron, this other like person that's here is like a poet, and we had to draw each other, and his was better than mine.
Yeah. Like, yeah, when I was doing it with Andrea, she was just like,
She's like low key good.
she was
too.
really good.
Yeah.
She's like sketching and she's like, oh no, I'm not that great. But it was like a masterpiece.
I know.
So it's
And I'm like, you're not even the person that
Yeah.
has to be good.
Yeah.
That you're good. I think too, one thing like we have like, so content and art or design. And I think there's a good synergy when the stuff you make there is aligned with what you want to do for like client work or what you want to do, you know, as like your main career or whatever. I think you've done a good job at making those two things cohesive. Like you can see a thread between even the titles you use on YouTube with like some of the stuff you'll use in like your poster work or your work for clients or brand deals. And do you think that it's important to have like an overall kind of brand between both those things, like your career and your content stuff?
Yeah, I think it's interesting you say that because I don't think that I do that on purpose necessarily. I think I love experimenting with different like fonts and styles and things like that. But I guess I do kind of end up having my own style that shows through all my work.
Yeah.
But I think as a brand designer, it's kind of important to be able to do different things. And so like, yeah, a personal brand and being cohesive can be really important. But I also kind of want to be able to show that I have range sometimes.
Right.
So I do like experimenting with different illustration styles or different type styles. And then hopefully like a client or a potential person will see that and resonate with that. And then I can get like multiple different types of projects because I don't really want to do the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, as a designer, it's kind of weird because I feel pressured to have a style, but I feel pressured to be kind of versatile for clients.
Yeah.
Because people get trapped and then like you get so much work from having a style, but you miss so much work from having a style.
Yeah.
It's like a double-edged sword.
Exactly. So I kind of try to just do different things, whether it's like different mediums even. Like I know I'll do some illustration work sometimes, but I'll also try doing like zines or like more physical poster things, and then obviously like branding as well. So I kind of try to like divvy up the types of projects that I'm doing.
Right. Yeah. And I think it's good. And like I said, it shows. And I've felt the same way about my own stuff. But then it just takes, you need someone else to look at it and tell you. Like, so with content and stuff, obviously brand deals and the money side of thing is actually, whether people may know this or not, it's pretty good. And like it can be lucrative once you start to build up kind of that business and stuff. And that is, I think, one of the most amazing things because it frees you up to work on only the stuff you want to do, and it helps you have like this other form of income. But I also feel like it makes me upset because sometimes it can pay more than like the projects, you know, or like the actual design. And it's not that industry's fault that design's undervalued, but it's hard for me to separate the two sometimes. And I was wondering, how's kind of your experience been with like doing brand deals and content and starting to make money from that? How has that affected how you operate within like design and the client work?
Yeah, I think when I first started out, I was mainly just doing like brand projects, brand after brand after brand, or just like one-off illustrations, things like that. But I think now I've definitely shifted more onto the side of doing a lot of like brand deals and partnerships with certain design programs. And I think I'm still relatively new to that world. So
Yeah.
it's still really exciting for me. I really, really enjoy what I'm doing. But I have definitely found myself like not really taking on branding projects anymore, like doing the work that I kind of started doing. And it's kind of like that work is super, super fulfilling to me. But now in my head, I'm like, oh, but it takes like way more effort and like way more time. And then it's just like the same as doing one video. And
Right.
it's just like,
And it's somehow less appreciated.
yeah,
Like
exactly.
the video people are like, yo, you popped off. Like, thank you so much. Like maybe because they're not used to working with like pure like creatives or whatever.
Yeah.
But then you do like a brand identity and they're like, yeah, it's like, appreciate it. Like,
Yeah.
thank you. Thanks for like doing our entire like company's like
Yeah.
aesthetic. So it is hard because it's hard for me to figure out if design's undervalued or that industry is like overinflated.
Well, I think it's just like if you're working with brands and companies, they're obviously going to just have a bigger budget than like a mom and pop, like hot sauce brand
Sure.
that's just starting up. So it's just like a little bit hard sometimes. But
Mm-hmm.
I think what I'm trying to do is just like a one for me, one for them type of thing where it's like, yeah, I'll take on brand deals with companies that I really like. But
yeah.
if there's a project that comes along and it's like a brand identity and they don't really have a super big budget or anything, if I really like them and I believe in the product, then I'll be like, yeah, let's do
Right.
it.
I guess it's not fair to compare to because the brands I'm working on brand deals with, it's not like those are the ones that want me to do a brand identity for them. Maybe
Yeah.
those budgets would be like
Yeah, those budgets would be
50K,
insane.
100K
Yeah.
or whatever. For me, making content around art and design is cool because it's given me like a platform and I feel like I'm more like known as an individual and things. But I am also a little bit jealous of kind of the anonymity of like the people who can just come in and post like one client project every month online and they don't have to deal with like people talking about them basically and like commenting and things like that. And your stuff has been growing and YouTube has been growing more now and your Instagram. Obviously you think it's worth it because we still do this, but how do you deal with like stuff that's negative? Because I think when we post content, we're more exposed than like just an artist where people think they can say like crazy shit.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess I'm kind of new to that world too. So when it happens, I'm like, oh, it doesn't feel that great. But I think I'm kind of just starting to learn that's just part of the process and it's just kind of something you have to accept. And I think hopefully I'll just grow a thicker skin because of it.
Right.
But like, I guess what I just think of when I see someone leave like a negative comment or something, it's just like, they don't really like view you as a person. It's more just like something on a screen and they don't really like acknowledge the fact that you're a human being that can read these things. So
Right.
it's just like, yeah, whatever. I don't think it's that big of a deal.
It's also like, you know, from the data I've seen, like objectively worse as like a woman creator.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Like an Asian woman, that's like
Yeah.
But I don't know. It hasn't been too awful or anything. But again, I think I kind of just go off of the idea of like maybe someone's just hurting if they're like leaving a really, really like awful comment. And so it's just like I can't really take it personally.
What I've kind of known or done to mitigate that is it sucks, but the only way I don't get offended by that stuff is I don't allow the good stuff to really affect me either.
Oh,
Like I kind
interesting.
of just don't like care about any of
Oh,
it.
I think that's a great approach actually.
So it's like you get to not enjoy that, but then I don't have to feel bad because I can read like 100 good things and the one thing that's bad will bother me, you know?
Yeah, I think that's just kind of how human psychology works a lot of the time.
I try to write a lot because I think I underestimate how much I could just like yap. Like I really probably only needed like 5 talking
Yeah, I
points.
feel like we could yap.
So we've been talking to like all these creators here and sometimes I'm in the middle of a sentence and I'm like, damn, like I need to ask more about their thing. Like I just went off on like this whole, because they're like, what do you do? And I'm like, well, you know, when I was like first graduate school, and it's like this whole lore, you know? I've said it like 10 times.
Yeah. I feel like you're really good at it though. Like I've seen you just socializing with people and it's just like you just bam bam bam. You like
Yeah.
it's hard.
It is hard.
Like when I talk to people, I'm just always like, fuck, now I have to like think of the next question and it takes up a lot of space in my brain.
I forget people's name because I'm worried about what I'm gonna say.
Yeah, and so then you're not like
What's my
really
name?
paying attention to them in the end, which kind of sucks. So I'm working on that. But
But then they're all nice. They're like, "Oh, cool! Like that was really interesting." And I'm like, "Are you sure?" Like that was crazy. I just went off. I guess kind of related to that. Do you feel like you have like this like edgy cat or whatever you want to call it, like the Katrina that's online, and then yourself?
I mean, I guess with starting a YouTube channel and like going into more long form content, it's very different from filming like a 60-second reel where you're just kind of like pointing to a screen or you don't really get to say that much.
Yeah.
But I think starting YouTube has helped me kind of be more myself in front of the camera because sometimes I'm just yapping and I'm like, okay, I'll just include that, I guess. And I think it has resonated with people when I get like vulnerable or I'll just reveal something about myself and they're like, oh, I relate to that. And so it's kind of nice. It's kind of nice to kind of get that validation to just keep going and like being yourself. So I try my hardest to not have too much of a filter, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously everyone kind of has a built-in filter, but yeah, I just try to be as authentic as I possibly can.
It's almost like not authentic to say like, oh, I think I'm authentic. That's my brand or whatever. Because that means you like think about it, you know, so that it's inherently not or whatever. But I feel like I try my best, but I know I'm not doing it as good as I can. And maybe I shouldn't be doing it all the way because when I meet people, they're like, what the hell? Like,
oh, really?
You're like way different. And I think I'm just more like...
I think you're a little more like unhinged in person.
Yeah.
You're like a little more out of pocket in person.
Yeah, for sure. I'm more like professional, you know, because like when you're by yourself recording something, I'm not going to make like jokes.
Yeah,
or, like,
that's true.
It's cringe kind of.
But it's just fun. It's like funny because like I heard Joelle being like, Jesse's so funny for no reason, like not on purpose, you know, you'll just say something and it's just like, damn, he really said that.
Yeah, I know. I just like I'm like the king of letting my intrusive thoughts win. Like, I'm like, whatever could happen if I say this, it's gonna hurt me more if I keep it trapped inside my body. You know, some of the stuff obviously talked about so far, some pros, some cons, but I think one of the biggest things that creating content can do and growing social media channels in general, especially when you're an artist or a designer, is the opportunity to get you more work, meet other creatives, and just kind of all the opportunities it's afforded me monetarily, friendships, community. Like we wouldn't be at this place we're at right now. I probably wouldn't have gotten half the clients that I've gotten in the past few years without using the content as like a platform. And like how worth it, I guess, has it been for you to do the content
like
stuff?
100% worth it. I get like 99% of my clients through Instagram and I guess like 1% through word of mouth. But I mean, it's like you said, like it's awarded us so many different cool opportunities, like this camping trip, meeting other different like creative people, going to Adobe Max, just things like that. And it's hard. It's crazy how like social media can just reach so many more people than like if you just kind of like had a website or anything.
Right.
So definitely 100% worth it for me.
There's a fine line, like your content should be like kind of what you're about if you want to get work from that. But I'm surprised because sometimes I'll have like a video or something do well and then it gets eyes on like my other type of work, even though it's not related. So people may not think sometimes like, why would I make content? I make, you know, illustrations or I make posters or whatever. But even if that content doesn't directly show that, it rises like the exposure of like your channel or whatever you want to call it. Like we have all seen that like the static stuff can like, you know, essentially flop for lack of a better word. So it's good to like hedge your bets by posting an occasional video and stuff like that.
No, and I think like you definitely notice a shift after you kind of start showing more of yourself and your personality and like your face online with your work. I think people are just more inclined to connect with it if they kind of feel like they know the person behind it.
Right.
So like before when I started Instagram, it was just all of my work, like only my work. And then I guess Reels started to get a little bit more popular. And so I started experimenting with that. But I think it's really easy for clients or potential clients to be like, oh, I'm more inclined to reach out to this person because I feel like I kind of already know them, or like maybe I want to be friends with them.
Yeah, I think that is probably the case. And you kind of started with like process stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like, let's make this poster a brand identity or whatever, which I think everyone kind of does. That's what's cool though, is I think as you do it more, you less have to use like the formulas. You find out your own kind of little bag of tricks or whatever.
Exactly. And I think it's really fun because with content creation, whether it's short form or long form, like I just really love the idea of storytelling and just figuring out how to turn all of these little clips and like experiences into like a full-blown story. So I would like to think that I'm getting better at that, and it's been like fun learning new editing tricks or just like being able to storyboard things. And it's just like the way that I make videos now is just so different from like 2-3 years ago.
It's a good thing that I look back and I'm like embarrassed.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I got better.
It's really nice to like be able to see that progress and just be like, oh, I'm actually getting better at this. And it just kind of propels you to keep going forward.
Because I feel like that gets less extreme for me as a designer as I kind of reach my like, I feel like I'm feeling a little better overall. Like last year, I'm like, I like that stuff. But you know, a few years ago when I looked at my last year work, I didn't like it. But since video is more new to me, I can do that again. I'm like, oh fuck, it's so bad. Like, it's awful. But it's kind of cool though. I like looking at it. But the bad side to this, I think, is that I feel like I can't even consume like these apps like YouTube, Instagram without like my brain's like, all right, well, they did that, so I can do that, and then I can make my own video. Or when I'm making like personal work, I'm like, why aren't I recording the process? Like I should get an overhead shot of this or something. And I feel like that takes up a lot of space in my brain. And I think overall it's a net positive because it's allowed me to, you know, like actually remember to do that stuff. Like sometimes I won't even I'll forget to record. But on the downside, I almost feel like I can't enjoy not recording or something sometimes. And
and I guess one way that I kind of combat, actually no, it doesn't help because it takes way more time, but I basically just let myself kind of like design whatever and like go into the like flow state, and then I'll just go back and like re-record it basically. So sometimes I'll just end up redoing the whole thing, but at least I kind of like got that part where it's like, oh, I'm just genuinely like going with the flow and doing what I normally do and enjoying that process. And then because when I like put on a camera and like record myself designing for the first time, I just get really bad like performance anxiety.
Me too.
And I'm just like, oh, this is not turning out how I want to. And like the second I turn off the camera, it's just like it comes back. Like everything comes back to me. I'm like, oh, this makes more sense. So,
right. And I feel like, I don't know, I feel like someone's watching, and like, if I go to like Google something, I feel like it's like, that's not a cool part of the process. Like, get out of here. Or I feel like I'm not allowed to get distracted.
I'm like scrolling on Pinterest.
Yeah. I think that creating content online, before I did that, I didn't as often feel this sense of like burnout and like constant need to like put stuff out and feel pressured and stuff. I felt that a little bit when I was just as a designer, but I think content and that in tandem has really like exasperated that idea. And is there anything that you've kind of developed to help you combat like burning out, or any remedies you have for like recharging and stuff?
Yeah, I would say like I don't think I experienced burnout as often as I did before, mainly because if I can feel myself getting to that point, I'll just stop. Like I'll just go for a walk, or I'll like just turn off the computer.
Like just when it's hot before it's burnt.
And it's like, especially on weekends, I think I used to kind of just work straight through the weekends, especially when I was starting out, because I was like, oh, I have like these freelance projects, but I also want to do these content creation projects, and it's just like I just felt like go all the time. But I think as I realized that like life is not all about work, I'm like a little bit more balanced. It's not. Okay. And like especially on weekends now, I'm just like, okay, I'm just gonna close the computer. Like I'm just not gonna allow myself to open up Illustrator or whatever. And I think that has helped immensely.
That's really all it is for you too, huh? Because you just work on your laptop.
Yeah.
Wherever.
Yeah. I just work on my laptop.
Could
So
just like throw
you just
it.
close it.
Yeah.
Just close the screen.
Yeah, that's like when Tyler the Creator was talking about cyberbullying. He's like, just don't go online.
Yeah, just close your eyes.
Or, yeah, just don't look at the computer. Yeah, and obviously easier said than done sometimes, but I like to be an advocate for like healthy balance and routine, but I always feel the need to tell people that like I went crazy hard in like COVID and stuff. I only feel this is not like probably a good way of thinking entirely, but I only feel the right to be balanced now because I did like all this upfront work. Like I was in like 2020 to 2022. I was just like in the fucking studio like 24/7, and COVID sucked, but it was like kind of the best thing for that because I had no one. I never had to be like, oh, I guess I can't go out because I want to do this, and I just went so hard, and it's hard for me sometimes still for my brain to even do the more like reasonable schedule because I got so used to that. Did you ever like have a little era like that?
I mean, I don't really think so because although I did work a lot through COVID, I think because I'm naturally such a homebody, it wasn't really like a huge difference to me. So it was just like, okay, I'll just be on my laptop like usual. And I think I kind of worked steadily at the same pace for the last several years.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean,
so you have it all figured out, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know. Do you so I know you don't have this one figured out. So I think with putting stuff out there, like all the metrics on social media, like the baddest one is the YouTube, like 1 out of 10, 10 out of 10. If you haven't published a YouTube video, when you publish more than 10, it'll rank it from 1 to 10. I'm surprised at how much like a 1 can like make my whole life better, and how sad a 10 can make me, and I'll spiral. And you have that same with like likes and views on Reels and Instagram and the algorithms or whatever. But I think all of us get some kind of validation from that. And how do you kind of mitigate that so you don't get too hurt when it's bad and like not maybe get overly inflated when it's good? And what kind of validation do you get outside of, like, how do you feel good about the art regardless of what other people think?
Yeah, I mean, like with YouTube, I think because I'm still so new, like I've been at it for maybe a year now. It's just like I don't really have like a crazy subscriber count or anything. So like if it flops, I'm just like, well, I'm new, it's not that big of a deal to me. Okay. But I mean, I totally get what you're saying.
That works for now, right?
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying when it's just like a 1 out of 10 and you're like I'm riding a 1 right now, and I'm like, this feels really good.
Yeah, I think I came to this camp on a 1 too. So
yeah,
I'm like I'm a creator.
Yeah, yeah. And then like when it's 10, you're like, oh, fuck.
I literally think when it's YouTube, I'm literally like what am like? Should I even post any other videos? Like I don't feel
really?
Like I don't feel that way with design work because I get enough validation by making it. Like if a post flops on a design, I'm like, it's just because they don't like video.
Okay.
It's dope.
Yeah.
It's a dope design. On YouTube, I'm like, maybe you're not like cut out for
maybe
this.
You're not cut out for this. It's crazy.
It's stressful.
I mean, yeah, maybe you're just being too hard on yourself, man.
Yeah, maybe. That's true. I think but it's also weird too because you always move the bar. Like,
yeah.
My 10 out of 10s now were 1 out of 10s last year. Like I'm like only 5,000 like or whatever 3,000 views. There was a point where I didn't have any video reach that number. Yeah. So it's really a good thing is that your brain always pushes the marker because it allows you to improve and stuff. But that's the worst thing too because you're almost never like content.
Yeah, you're always on this like hamster wheel. Like just like, okay, I reached this milestone. Now it's time to like reach the next milestone. And you don't really allow yourself to like celebrate your small wins or like your progress or whatever.
Do you feel like you're good at celebrating like wins?
No, I'm pretty bad. I kind of just like, I feel like I am on that hamster wheel a lot, but I'm like really trying to not be that way. So I'm like aware of it. I just have to kind of put in the work to like not be that way anymore.
That's the first step.
Yeah. Self-awareness. Yeah.
It's like AA for the algorithm, anonymous. Yeah. It's crazy to think too. There's like, I don't know exactly about some of the creators here, but like some of them are like really like famous, I guess, to an extent. And their 10 out of 10s is probably like a million views.
Yeah.
I'm like, they're probably like, fuck, a million views only in
Yeah.
one day.
Yeah.
That's what's crazy is when someone else looks at it, it's so easy for you to feel like, yeah, that is stupid that I'm carrying. Like, I'll get a bad video and I'm like, damn, like, still like 5,000 people watch this. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, if you actually think about it, that's 5,000 people that sat down and like wasted their time essentially with you. So I'm trying to practice more like, what's the word? I guess I don't even know the word because I'm not very good. Gratitude. Yeah. I'm trying to be more grateful.
Yeah. Being grateful is awesome.
Yeah.
I think, well, when I spoke at a conference in Chicago and it was 1,000 people, and I mean, I was freaking out because it was like 1,000 people in the room with me. And so I was like Googling,
so much.
I was like Googling, like, what does that even look like? Blah, blah, blah. And so like, when you think about it, it's like a huge amount. But when you like post a video and it only reaches like 1,000 people, you're like, wow, I kind of flopped, you know? But it's just, I guess you have to shift your mindset and just be like, 1,000 people is a crazy number of people to be watching you and like investing their time in you and stuff.
Like, how much followers do you have on Instagram? Do you know?
Yeah, I have about 140.
What if they were all in one?
Yeah, that's
thing?
insane.
That's like a stadium tour.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's not those don't convert that way. You know? It's like 1% would go to an event or whatever. But it is crazy to think about it that way. Do you something I wanted to ask you too is we are already by design, pun intended, like stuck in a niche, you know, because our video, that's like kind of our unfair advantage in the world is like to talk about design or do design or do art. Do you feel ever trapped though in like only working within one like style or one format when it comes to like making content or video, like especially the ones that do well?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's very easy to want to just replicate the videos that do really well.
Yeah.
And like, again, I think with YouTube especially, I've been just trying to do more like lifestyle based vlogs versus just only graphic design tutorials and whatever.
Yeah.
And I think right now those are doing pretty well for me. So, I mean, like, I don't necessarily feel stuck in it, I guess. It's more like, okay, I kind of enjoy doing these
like
anyway.
A good stuck.
So it's like a good stuck. But again, like, I do eventually want to experiment with like whatever I want to do and not let myself get bored or like feel like I just have to always make the same video over and over again. But yeah, like I think I'm working on a couple of videos right now that are a little bit different, and I'm scared that they won't be received super well, but I would rather just like put it out there and see what happens versus like feel like I have to just do one specific thing over and over again, because then it's like it's gonna be obvious that I'm not enjoying it and then they won't enjoy it either, and it's just not a good time. So I guess the point is just like do what you're passionate about, and then people will be able to see that passion, and then they'll just be like, oh, that's dope, like that person really likes what they do.
I agree. Sometimes you don't think it either. Like the one that I was saying it was like a 1 out of 10 was one of those videos where I was like, I'm just gonna, it's a one for me. And when the one for me becomes one for the algorithm or whatever, that's like that's the best. Like you want that like sweet spot always, like if there was like a, you know, grid of it, because the one that you do because you think it'll work, even when it does, it's not that. You're like, yeah, of course. And then if it the opposite side is you do the one that you think will work and it doesn't. You're like, so I made myself look like an idiot and no one cared about it. You know? It's a double. Do you still feel though, like, even if you do feel pretty free with like what you want to make, like let's say you do a vlog, don't you kind of feel though like there has to be something about design in there?
Definitely.
Like, here's my design work. Yeah.
Like I put out a video of just like my time, my vacation in the Philippines. Like the second one, it was just like not really, I didn't put like design in the title at all. And that one was just like, no one cares. No one cares about you.
Like, let us know when you're back in your office.
Like, okay, good to know. Good to know.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I feel like sometimes I have to so much leverage like the identity of being a designer for anyone to even care about me at all. Because it's like, that's what, I mean, essentially that's why I start. This wouldn't exist without that, you know? But I do think I have been pretty proud that for better or for worse, my average views isn't that fluctuating. Like I may not have crazy ones all that blow up all the time, but the bomb isn't too bad anymore. So I've kind of learned like, oh, since I'm still growing, like I can kind of do whatever, and it doesn't seem like that out of the
Yeah.
like out of the picture or whatever.
And I like to think that the people who actually do watch like the, just like not really design related, just like more videos about yourself and your personality, like you're essentially just building a community.
Yeah.
And so like the people who do watch those, they get to really know you. And so it doesn't feel as bad when you think about it that way.
Earlier, a little bit, we were talking about kind of the contentification of like art and design and everything being like for a social media or for the algorithm. And I think it's added an extra layer to creatives to feel that pressure to be consistent and to always be like, if you're not showing face, like you don't exist anymore type of thing. Like you always have to be on. One, how do you deal with like being okay with like having your own schedule and not worrying about posting every day or this and that? And two, do you think that that's still important to even be like consistent online?
Yeah. I think, okay. Can I answer it out of order?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, yeah. I think it is super important to be consistent with it if you want to keep growing, if you want to keep getting new clients and stuff. I mean, maybe if you reach like a certain point of like followers and subscribers, like you can, like Emma Chamberlain, like she'll just post like whenever she wants, I guess. So it's just like, okay. But no, like
that's
kind
an
of hard.
anomaly, right?
It's kind of hard to reach that level. So you do kind of have to keep showing up, especially with content creators putting out like 5 reels a week, like things like that. It's
even if you're consistent is like every week, it's better than nothing, right?
Yeah. So, and I think just the algorithm is just like if you're not posting, then we're not going to support you, basically.
Yeah.
So I think I'm averaging like 1 a week right now for Instagram. For YouTube, it's like once every other week. And I mean, I don't think it's enough, but it's just like I physically can't do more than that.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
So yeah, what was the first question?
Do you feel okay with like the schedule you're on, and how do you like allow yourself to feel okay with like not doing as much as other people may be doing?
I think, yeah, I feel bad. I feel bad with the schedule I'm on.
Yeah.
I wish I could do more, but it's like, I don't know, man. I have projects to do. I have like a job. I have other things. So it's just like, sometimes I'll be like beating myself up about it. It's like, oh, I can't get another reel out this week. But it's just like, it's not that deep, you know? It's like, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's not that big of a deal.
It's also funny that like even on a week where I don't have work, I work just as much.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck, like, all right, no clients. Like I'm gonna make 10 videos or whatever. And I guess that's good because it keeps you like with the muscle. And I think if you chill too much, no schedule is worse than even like once a month, because then you'll just never do it essentially, because you don't know when your body won't like force you to do it. But man, like I think everyone can afford a little bit of slack. Like, you know, people a lot of designers obviously do challenges like every week, do this every day. And it's like, if you don't do that, it's really, no one cares essentially. Like it's okay. Like we care, we like it, but we don't care that much. Like my day is not going to be affected if you forgot to post your number 295 on your 365 poster, because I probably only seen half of them anyway. So it's like, it's okay.
Yeah, and I try to like remind myself about that. I'm like, no one's like shitting bricks if I don't post today. Like no one cares that much. So it's
like when we didn't have internet here, I'm like, fuck, like they know it's like I'm supposed to post like the S of my series today. So like they're waiting. You know? They're waiting. And it's like maybe they're waiting, but they're really waiting. Like it's okay.
Have you ever gotten like a message where someone's like, "Hey, where's the next one?" Or like, you haven't posted in a while?
Only when I was doing the podcast, because I feel like that has a lot more of a like like a, how do they do it? You know, Colin and Samir. They have something. It's like appointment viewing. That's what they call it. Like podcasts, live streams. People expect that. Part of the success is the time and the day and every time it goes out. Even if that schedule is like, with YouTube videos, it's kind of like whatever. They can blow up if they blow up. But with things like podcasts and newsletters, I think people, it starts to become part of their life routine. So when you fuck it up, they're like, yo, I was supposed to, I wanted to drive to work and listen to the thing.
Okay.
And you like, you fucked it all up.
Oh, yeah. I see. I've never really like gotten a comment or a message from you like, hey, where's your next video, you know?
Right.
So it's like, I don't think I'm like super in demand like that. So it's like, I can just kind of post whenever I want. No one cares that much. So yeah, it's just me beating myself up about it.
Right. So I should have got to this earlier, but if you're sticking around already, then you care about this shit more than the average person. So most artists and designers, I think, post short form content. Like it's almost, I'd say there's like an 80%, you know, overlap of like people who post stuff online or designers who post their work online, at least somewhat make reels or TikToks or whatever. But I've always been like a big advocate for long form video, and I kind of pride myself in how like consistent I've been with that and like trying to grow community and stuff. And you're getting more and more consistent with that and doing well on YouTube. Do you think that long form video is a format that most people in this niche should experiment with, or not necessarily?
I mean, I think if you would enjoy long format and you like the aspect of storytelling, then yeah, totally. I think some people just don't really care for it, but I feel like it's just more fulfilling when you're able to tell like a full-fledged story and put all of this effort in, and it just kind of makes that final video you put out like so much more rewarding. Like a reel or a TikTok, it doesn't take as much time to film that stuff and put it together. But like when you're putting out a whole video diary or a vlog or something, it's a whole story from start to finish. And I just feel good when I'm like, okay, I just made another one. It just feels like, it feels different.
And don't you feel like the ratio, there's like a ratio, like if 1,000 people watch that, it's like worth like 100,000 TikTok views or Instagram or whatever.
Kind of. It's just, I really like it. I love doing long form stuff, and I just feel like I'm becoming a better storyteller overall. Even like, I can even feel that skill translate to making short form content too, because it's just like, how do I tell a shorter story, you know? And so it's helpful either way.
Let me check something real quick.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure.
That would suck.
I never checked it.
That would suck.
Oh, I never started it. I've done that before.
That sucks.
With the podcast on digital. Obviously, I think as designers and artists, we sometimes have to hold ourselves to a little bit of a higher standard when it comes to like the content we're putting out, because we want it to be also reflective of the quality of like work we could do, or like seeing consistent branding and like good, like, you know, we can't get away with like not good type or whatever on our posts and stuff. And I think doing stuff sometimes like for the wrong reasons, like just because something will pop off, or you want to, you know, get a lot of followers on Instagram. Like a lot of people message me like, oh, how do you grow this, or how do you do this? And I think that sometimes if you do that stuff just for the short form success, like it's gonna benefit you negatively in the long run, because you didn't keep, I think in the long run the value will be in trying to put out your best stuff like consistently time and time again. And do you ever feel pressure, I guess, basically to disregard that a little bit because you think that some piece of content or something will do well online?
No, I wouldn't say I feel like the pressure to do that. I think my whole approach to like social media and all this stuff, maybe because you've been doing it for like a little bit longer than me, especially with YouTube, you have like a different mindset. But for me, I'm really just trying to have a good time. Like I'm just trying to do whatever makes me happy. And if it works, then like, that's awesome. Because I really do think like if you just enjoy what you're doing, other people will also kind of see that and resonate with that. So if I put all of this like pressure and like all these bad vibes on myself, then I'm just not going to be putting out anything that I'm proud of. Okay. And so I think I'm just so not very like business minded or whatever. And like it's interesting because I think my sister kind of has the same mindset as you. Like she's pretty professional when she needs to be, and she has like very, I don't know, she puts a lot of pressure on herself and stuff. And she's also a designer, but she's a product designer. Okay. But she's just like, oh, I have these goals that I have to meet, blah, blah, blah. And so it's really interesting because like, yeah, she's successful and like that works for her. But with me, if I start putting all of these little like things on myself and I like start thinking that way, I'm just going to crumble.
Sure.
Yeah. So it's like I've tried I've tried to like think that way and like have that mindset, but it just never works out for me. Yeah. Maybe it's because I just have a lot of anxiety naturally. So if I add more of that on, it's just like.
It's interesting how that can manifest that way, because I'm the same way, but it turns into like you got to do it all, not you're doing too much. Like it's because I've noticed, everyone has mental illness or whatever to an extent.
Everyone has mental illness.
And I've kind of noticed like I have trouble resonating with people who get like depressed and they're down, like they can't do stuff, like they have trouble being motivated, because my depression is like I'm just gonna distract myself from everything and do like 500 things. So it's maybe that's good, because then at least at the end I made something. But also like sometimes I'm like I should be more like those people, where when I really need to like chill, like I should actually chill, But I know it sounds like you're just going with the I'm just a girl mentality.
I am just a girl.
I'm not
like
gonna put too
I'm
much
just
pressure.
a girl. And it's like, I think because I was so anxious as a child, I just got, and it just wasn't a good feeling for me. And I think through like years of therapy and like whatever, it's just, I just always have to remind myself it's really just not that deep. And again, it comes back to just life is way more than the work you do and like the graphic design you put out.
Yeah,
and
it doesn't
it's
really
just
matter.
like, even like coming to this camp has kind of made me realize the importance of relationships and friendships and like having a sense of community. And I think just being able to balance all of it versus just kind of like digging yourself into this hole where you're like, I have to work all the time, I have to be successful, blah blah blah. It's just like, that's not really a great way to live.
Yeah, I think we're afforded this like privilege to not do that, but we don't sometimes do it any better than the people who are forced to work like 40 hours a week plus. And sometimes you gotta, I was talking to this with Ethan, we were talking about how everyone was like recording everything at sometimes, and we were saying like you gotta go out and like live to make the art better, like to come back to it. If you're only working, you're only gonna ever pull from the same like pool of inspiration, and it'll eventually dry up and your stuff will just become like almost like derivative of its past self. So I think it's good to go out and like have a life, essentially outside of just art and design. Like that's one of the sometimes the most important thing you can do to become a better artist is not do any art sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. And again, I think it also just comes down to the whole like gratitude thing. Like whenever you're just stressing out about like likes and followers, it's just like sometimes you just have to see the bigger picture. Like we're in an insane position where we can just do what we like, and we're afforded all of these crazy opportunities, and like we get to do a lot of really fun things. And so when I remind myself of that, like things just don't seem as, my problems are just not as big as I think they are.
And we are recording in this like cool little Airstream, but if you want to like make us feel more like we're not having the best time, we did have no power until yesterday, so these were pitch black and we were freezing. So like if you like to envision like a bunch of like annoying like influencer creator people like not being able to handle that, then that was essentially what happened. And it was quite surprising how well everyone handled it. For people who can't stay off their phones, we sure did that for a bit.
No, we really bonded. We were like face to face. We were in the moment.
Do you I think one of the last points, you kind of just covered it a little bit, but the number one most rewarding thing I've gotten from like content that I don't think would have happened from just being a designer is by far like the community aspect of it. Like meeting people like you and other design friends that we have, and going to Adobe, going to events like this, like that alone is valuable, like outside of the career advancement and the monetary advancement. And you never know what's going to happen. Like I can trace back like the butterfly effect from even some of this stuff. Like I went to that first Adobe event with people like Ram and Duran, and I was like, whatever, I'll go check this out. That turns into me going to Adobe Max. That turns into me meeting as talented illustrator Katie Mai. That turns into her recommending me something like this. Like if you build your network like that, and not in like a LinkedIn way, but just like friends, of network, you don't even have to try, and like cool shit. I never thought just that's cool shit would happen this often, I guess, either.
Yeah, you don't have to try. Yeah.
It's pretty cool. Is there any other last thing you want to say, or anything you want to promote or anything?
I mean, like, thanks for having me. It was fun. I feel like we talk about this a lot, so it's nice to just have a documentation of it, I guess.
Yeah, we finally recorded something like this. So find someone too that you can talk to that's around the same experience in creating stuff online, and that's super valuable because you can talk about prices, you can talk about what type of stuff you think is cool to post online and whatever, and just go out and make more friends. That's kind of the message, and I think it'll be helpful with all the type of creative stuff you want to do. And go check out Katrina's work, Edgykat Instagram, and is your YouTube just your name?
Same, Edgykatrina.
Edgykat, okay. Yeah. Edgykatrina, and thank you. We'll see you next time. Peace out.